How did Libya transition from a beacon of prosperity in Africa to a country mired in chaos and conflict? This is a tale of two epochs, a prosperous past and a fractured present. Once upon a time, Libya, under the rule of Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi, was a regional leader on the Human Development Index, thanks to an array of social and economic development programs. For 4 decades, Gaddafi led Libya to significant advancements, transforming it into one of the most prosperous nations in the African continent. Fast forward to today, 9 years after the military intervention by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, that led to Gaddafi's overthrow, Libya has become a battleground. A nation once united is now trapped in a spiral of violence, torn by armed groups, sectarian and ethnic conflicts, and marred by external interference. The country, once flourishing thanks to its vast oil fields, is now divided, its wealth contested by rival governments in the east and west, and by various armed factions. The drastic change in Libya's fortune is closely tied to the rise and fall of one man, Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi. His life and death became pivotal events in Libya and are key to understanding the current situation. Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi's rise to power was a turning point in Libya's history, setting the country on a path to prosperity. In 1969, Gaddafi and a group of officers overthrew the Senussi dynasty, marking the end of a monarchy that had kept Libya in a state of obscurantism while promoting foreign interests. Gaddafi's vision for Libya was one of independence and self-sufficiency. He swiftly acted to remove dominant foreign forces from the country, proclaiming Libya's true independence for the very first time. This was a bold move that signaled a new era for Libya, an era where the country's wealth would be shared among all its people. Under Gaddafi's leadership, Libya's vast oil fields became a resource for the nation and its people. He nationalized various Western oil companies, including British Petroleum, and created the National Oil Corporation. These actions marked a departure from the country's past and the start of a new economic model, one that prioritized Libya's interests above all else. But Gaddafi's vision for Libya went beyond just economic independence. He launched ambitious social programs that aimed to uplift the Libyan people and drive the country's development. These initiatives focused on improving education, health, housing, and social security, challenging the backwardness that had characterized Libya under the Senussi dynasty. Indeed, the impact of Gaddafi's policies was transformative. Under his rule, Libya saw significant advancements in social, political, and economic areas, earning the admiration of many African and Arab nations. His stance against imperialism, particularly against U.S. policies in the Middle East, made him an important figure in anti-imperialist struggles. Despite controversy and criticism, Gaddafi's rule brought significant social, political, and economic advancements to Libya. His life and death became pivotal events in Libya's history, shaping the country's present and influencing its future. The fall of Gaddafi marked the beginning of a new era for Libya, but not the one many had hoped for. The year was 2011. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, better known as NATO, led a military intervention to overthrow Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi. This intervention was not an isolated decision, but rather, it was supported by the governments of the United States and the European Union. The Libyan leader, who had been in power for 42 years, was not just overthrown. In an act that shocked the world, Gaddafi was captured and brutally murdered by rebels. This act of violence, far from bringing peace, plunged the country into a civil war, a war that seemed to have no end. Libya, once one of the most prosperous countries in the African continent, thanks to its vast oil fields, was now divided. Rival governments emerged in the east and the west, each claiming legitimacy over the nation. But the struggle for power didn't stop there. Multiple armed groups rose, each vying for a slice of the country's power and wealth. This once united nation was now a battleground, its people caught in the crossfire of ambition and power. The prosperity that Gaddafi had brought was now a distant memory, replaced by the harsh reality of uncertainty and chaos. The nation's oil, once a symbol of its wealth, was now a curse, fueling the conflict and division. Gaddafi's rule, which spanned over 4 decades, had seen Libya achieve significant advances in social, political, and economic matters. These achievements were recognized and admired by many African and Arab nations. Gaddafi, despite his controversial government, came to represent an important figure for anti-imperialist struggles. mainly for his position against the US and the policies carried out from Washington on the Middle East. The fall of Gaddafi has left Libya in a state of uncertainty and chaos, a sharp contrast to its past prosperity. The life and death of Gaddafi remain pivotal to understanding the current situation in Libya. Libya's journey from a prosperous nation to a country in chaos is a complex tale tied to the rise and fall of Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi. It starts with Gaddafi's ascension to power in 1969, overthrowing the Senussi dynasty and championing the cause of true independence. He utilized the country's oil wealth to fuel social and economic development programs, leading the North African nation to be a regional leader on the Human Development Index in 2011. Gaddafi's rule, albeit controversial, lasted for 42 years and was marked by significant advances in social, political, and economic matters. He was a figure admired by many African and Arab nations and represented anti-imperialist struggles, with his policies often clashing with those of the United States and the European Union. However, in 2011, an armed uprising supported by the United States and the European Union led to his brutal capture and murder, plunging the country into a civil war. The aftermath was catastrophic. The once prosperous nation, buoyed by its vast oil fields, was divided between rival governments and multiple armed groups, leading to absolute chaos. As Libya grapples with its present, the legacy of Gaddafi lingers on, a reminder of a past prosperity and a present filled with uncertainty.